plaintiff, Kelsey Harry, says she and the defendant were good friends and roommates until a few months ago. Kelsey says the defendant allowed her witness, whom the defendant had a threesome with, to bring her married boyfriend into their house so they could have sex. And Kelsey's suing her former roommate for property damages and a cell phone bill. Defendant Casey Shipley admits that she and her witness have kissed, but insists they were never involved in a threesome. Casey claims she never had any problems living with Kelsey, except for the fact that Kelsey often had random men in her bed. Casey's countersuing for rent because Kelsey moved out of her home without giving proper notice.
Start with you.
Okay, I met the defendant Casey 2 years ago. We met through a mutual friend, Elizabeth, and I knew their relationship was kind of weird from the beginning. Elizabeth actually once told me that they had a threesome, not that that bothered me. I was still friends with Casey, so she needed help with paying the bills. After becoming friends,
So what did you say when she told you that?
It didn't bother me.
Right,
no.
something. You kept hanging around.
It didn't bother me at all, actually. It just occurred to me later when she became really possessive in our friendship that maybe perhaps since she had been in a relationship like that with another female, I didn't know if maybe that.
So you weren't passing judgment on her?
No.
All right.
That is untrue.
She did pass judgment on you?
No, the story about the having a relationship with Elizabeth is untrue.
But the 3 is true.
No, Your Honor.
Well, I'm confused, ma'am. What are you saying?
None of that is true.
Oh,
we have been
okay,
friends.
none of it. All right, well, say it. You were stuttering and you didn't.
Well, that threw me off guard. We have
No,
been
I don't
friends.
throw you off guard. If it's not true, you say, no, it's not.
That's what I was saying.
What is she talking about? That's not what you did.
That I did?
No, that's not what you did. Part of that ain't true. I said, which part?
There's more
I said,
to
which part isn't true? Well, the part about me and her. I said, okay, what about the 3 of you? Well, that ain't true either.
No, that is absolutely untrue.
Well, let me ask you one more time. Is any of that she said true?
No, Your Honor, that is not
Yeah,
true.
That's why couldn't you say it like that the first time?
It is not true. There is.
So why are you smiling?
Because there was stories like that since we have been kids, we have been friends.
Tell me one
Started
of
by
them.
the witness.
No, I'm just saying. I just want to know how people are defaming you all.
We had been friends since we were kids, and on several, dares, yes, we have kissed, but it was never a relationship with each other. We are best friends. We've been friends since we were kids.
Just a sexual relationship. And actually, Casey ended up sleeping with Elizabeth's boyfriend, and that's how it all kind of started.
Any other background you want to give me on your friendship?
Yeah, just our friendship at first was really good. Besides the last few months, there was a lot of tension. Casey actually allowed Elizabeth and her married guy she was having an affair with come over and have sex in Casey's bed. So that kind of threw me off a little bit. I didn't really enjoy that. I was sleeping when it happened.
You didn't enjoy it?
No, not at all. I was sleeping when it happened.
You were part of it?
No.
What do you mean you didn't enjoy it?
She called me afterwards and she asked me if I had heard any of it. And I said, well, no, I was sleeping. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe that she'd actually let somebody do that, come over and sleep in her bed, have sex in her bed.
All right. Do you want to give me any testimony regarding your friendship or the rental before we get to the property damage?
Our friendship was great for a very long time. We described ourselves as perfect roommates. Kelsey and I got along perfect. We never had any disagreements. She made me uncomfortable at times by the number of guys that were at my house, sleeping with her, different guys all the time.
That's untrue, Your Honor. We were both single. We were both dating. We both had multiple guys that we hung out with.
There was not
busy apartment.
There was not different guys at my house all the time.
No, but you must have liked some of them because she ended up in a relationship with one of them. So
which one?
Which one? You got so many you lost count.
No.
Say man number 20. Just give him a number.
It was her idea. She went on one date with the guy, and it was her idea for me too.
We're going to get to the property. Why are you suing her for property damage and a cell phone bill? What happened?
Well, with the cell phone bill, I added her under my plan. It was January, and we just verbally agreed that we'd each pay half of it. And then after I had moved out, I let her know how much the June bill was, and she refused to pay it. So I also have text messages.
Why did she tell you she would not pay it?
Because she said that I owed her 30 days rent, so a month's rent basically, because I moved out without notice, but we never had a lease.
So she withheld payment of the phone bill because of your
yes, and I have text
leaving the
messages if you wanted to
tenancy.
see that.
All right, and tell me why you're suing her on the property damage.
Because I have pictures. Actually, my property was all sitting in water.
Tell me what happened first.
It was about the 5th time it flooded. It was the worst rain that we've ever had. I came home.
Thank you.
I had to leave work early. I called Casey during my break. I knew that it was storming
Now,
outside.
whose residence was it again? Who owned it?
Casey's house.
You owned the house.
Yes.
All right, so you all weren't renting.
Right.
She owned it. Go ahead.
So I was at work and I knew that it was storming out. So I called Casey and I was like, how is the water in the basement? She's like, well, there is water, but I'm actually on my way to a going away party at a bar. And I said, okay, you're not really going home to take care of the problem. So I had to leave work early and come home, and I pretty much had a breakdown. That was the worst I've ever seen it. My mattress was sitting on the floor, basically a sponge to all the water. It was disturbing. I was upset. So I did my best to clean it all up, but there was mold all over my furniture.
And I suppose you're suggesting that she was negligent in the upkeep of her property, and her neglect led to the damage of your property. That's why you're suing her.
Right. She made promises on several occasions to let her dad know. Her dad's actually the one who waterproofed the basement, and she said numerous times she'd have him come over and fix it, and it was never done.
Ma'am?
Kelsey was well aware before she moved in that my basement leaked. I have a witness.
But did you continue to tell her you were going to get it fixed?
That we were working on it. She knew it was a trial and error project, and that we were.
I don't understand.
No.
What do you mean by having something repaired is trial and error?
We did. My dad had done a do-it-yourself waterproofing, which Kelsey was aware of before she moved in.
Okay, so you gambled with her furniture.
However, she knew in the beginning that it was a gamble. We had my witness helped her move in.
Did you know that her father had no experience at waterproofing?
Not at all. He's actually talked her out of professionally waterproofing her basement. She had the money from her tax return to do it, and he talked her out of it. He was sure that it would work.
He was not sure that it worked, and he even told Kelsey himself, and that's in my witness statement. My witness also helped her move in, and she is lying right now if she's saying that she didn't know that.
Elizabeth Tucker.
What do you want to tell me?
I helped Kelsey move in, and she was well aware that it was going to get wet in the back.
Excuse me, why would I move my
She knew moving her things in. She was, let me move it in, but I know it's going to flood on it.
She did know.
She knew that.
She knew it.
All right. Your witness want to speak?
Yeah, actually, Jennifer and I spent a lot of time with Casey. If you'd like
Jennifer
to
tell me.
Kelsey has been nothing but a good friend to Casey, and it just seemed like she really did not care that there was water consistently going into her room.
How long did you live there?
From October 2009 until June 2010. So,
how many times was your property damaged during those 8 months from rain?
It wasn't until spring, so about 5 times, since it's still springtime. Yeah, about 5 times. And at first it wasn't as bad, but as the rain got harder and as more.
So why did you let it go 5 times?
Because she kept promising to fix it.
All right, but what about the second time when she didn't fix it?
Well, actually, the first and second and even third time, the water actually wasn't that bad. It was able to be cleaned up with
So that
towels.
was all right.
It still stunk, but it was during.
But it was all right with you. You may have contributed to some of your own damage, ma'am. You were negligent in seeing that repeatedly and not moving your items.
Yeah.
By that third time, at the very minimum, you needed to have done something to mitigate the damage. And that's what the law would require, is that you mitigate your damage, not just sit there and watch the damage continue to occur. But that does not exempt you from total liability. First, tell me about the cell phone bill. Why don't you think you owe her that?
For the cell phone bill, the reason I was even on Kelsey's cell phone plan is because we were out one night and she had a little too much to drink and thought it would be funny to set my cell phone in a glass of water. And the next day she went with me because we were still friends. it was awful that my phone was ruined, but I needed a new one. She went with me and she suggested I just add a line to her cell phone plan, which I agreed with. I bought a new cell phone. I didn't make her pay for the one that she ruined. And I do owe her for the cell phone bill that she's saying I owe her for. I just don't think I should have to pay for the cancellation fee, considering I was out 2 cell phones due to her.
Okay, you should have countersued her for that. Your unpaid rent is for what?
When she had first moved in, we had agreed to let her pay me weekly. It was $340 a month, but she paid $85 a week. It was for the week that she had moved out and then 3 weeks after that. So the last week of June and then 3 weeks into July.
Ma'am?
So 30 days.
There was no lease sign, and I don't know how somebody who is not living in a livable condition can
How
say.
long after the damage to your property did you move?
It was the weekend after, actually the next day that we had the big rain, I started moving things out.
And she had that right, ma'am. That was constructive eviction. Unfortunately, I'm going to conclude that you did not mitigate your damage, and indeed you contributed to the damage by your contributory negligence, meaning you could have done something to stop it, but you didn't. You stayed there 5 times and watched it happen. So I'm going to deduct a small amount from your judgment. You're asking for $2,780. I'm going to grant everything you've asked for. She does agree that she owes for the bill, and you canceled the phone service because she didn't pay the bill. So if she's admitting liability for the bill, ma'am, you must accept the liability for the consequences of non-payment, and that is cancellation, and she incurred that consequence. I'll deduct $500 from your judgment because you should have acted earlier, and therefore I'll grant you $2,280. So your claim for rent is dismissed. Her judgment is granted minus $500 because she should have done something other than sit there and watch it 5 times in a row. Have a good day. Judgment for the plaintiff.
That was rumors that she had heard through other people. That has been something that's been going on ever since we were kids.
No, that's true. The witness, actually, Elizabeth told me herself, so.
No, and it's definitely not true.
As far as no friendship and never will be ever again.
Obviously.